Welcome to Raconteurs News.
Good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News. It's Tuesday evening, it's 8 o'clock. My name's Andy Young and you're listening to Raconteurs News on raconteursnews.com. And usually I'm joined on a Tuesday evening by co-host Jason, but Jason's busy with something else tonight, so we've got a guest co-host, and tonight's guest co-host is none other than Paul Webster. Good evening, Paul. How you doing, mate?
Oh, very well, Andy, thank you. Very well.
Cracking, mate. And what have you been up to since we last spoke then, Paul? Anything exciting happened?
Pretty much the same vein as what we were talking about, and it's about preparation now. You know, with me in particular, I've gone through the hard stuff. I've gone through the stuff where people are showing how they're going to act. They're going to show the corruption, they're going to show the fraud, and you've just got to keep at it and put those things in place to when you get to the point where you can take it forward. I just enjoyed having 2 years off, to be honest with you. As Anthony, when he comes on, he'll tell you how long he's been involved in this stuff, and I've been doing it for the same length of time, and you go through, like we were saying just earlier, baptism of fire to actually find out some information, and then you need to just pass it on to other people. Not one man, not one woman is going to do all this. You know, no one man or woman is going to do all of it. It's going to be loads of people who are doing it, and I doff my cap to the people who actually get involved with this stuff. Absolutely,
yeah. I take now off to them. And before we bring Anthony in, I'd just like to say I had a wonderful weekend, and I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who spent the weekend with me, but most especially to Gary Hazeltine and his excellent team of helpers over there at Home Firth at the 4th annual UFO Truth Magazine conference. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was the best one by far so far, and I kind of got a tick on my bucket list. I managed to meet, shake hands with, have a picture with, and have a good old chinwag with Travis Walton, star of Fire in the Sky movie, and from what I can gather there's going to be a remake sometime soon, and it will be more true to Travis's actual story. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in our guest for tonight, and our guest tonight has got an amazing story to tell us, and without further ado, let's welcome Anthony Carlin. Welcome, Anthony.
Evening there, Andy. How's it going, mate? You well? Evening, Paul.
Hi, Anthony.
Going very well, thank you, Anthony. So, would you like to start off by giving us a brief outline of how you came to be in the situation you're in, where it all started, and how it's gone this way, please?
Okay, so you have to excuse me tonight. I've got an onset of man flu just hit me there, so if I go into a fit of sneezing, don't be panicking. I've got a paramedic on standby nearby, and a defib and all. It's all sitting there, so don't be panicking, boys. Okay, so it all started out for me and the wife. We took out a mortgage in 2008, just prior to the crash. So all the prices were quite high at that stage. We just took out a mortgage, went and signed it the way everyone does. I believed that the bank, when I signed the offer that the bank were going to lend me, I borrowed £192,000. I believed that the bank were lending me that from their accounts, and that if I didn't pay that back, that someone would lose it. That's the belief I had at that time. So I signed up to a 2-year deal, and in 2010 that deal ended. So I received a letter in the post. The letter said, your last payment was, I think it was just under £300. It was £280, which is very low for a mortgage. But it says your last payment was £280. Your next payment is £1,000, and then it's £800 a month after that. And I didn't really dump myself. I couldn't believe a massive hike like that from £280 for a family. So it's just me and the wife and 2 kids, normal working family. I've started having a few drinks since, but I'm just a very social drinker. But for 7 years, I didn't drink at all. I don't smoke. I've got no habits. It's not. I was just a working family man, and I just could not cope with that because of inflation. Because our money's now worthless. It used to be that one person could have a job, and that person could support their whole family and their holidays and now two working parents have to abandon their children to go off and work 40-hour weeks and abandon their children, and so the children aren't being brought up properly, and that's just to survive. That's just to cope with the cost of living. You're not getting, there's no one here going on big swanky holidays that I'm aware of. So, say the deal ended. I tried to contact Santander. That was my lender. I asked them would they give me a new deal, and the answer was that my house was in negative equity, as was everybody's. So they refused to give me a new deal, and all the other banks wouldn't give me a new deal. So basically, as time went on, I ended up in litigation, and Santander got a repossession order against me, and then I started investigating. I've been investigating what was going on, and in 2013 I was able to overturn that and get a stated case against Santander, proving that they were telling lies and all the shenanigans they'd been getting up to. So that was 2013. Then I went on. There was other things happened. I just had about, I think I'm on now 5, maybe 6 years of ongoing litigation against Santander. And it all came to a head in January this year, where I was in court, and when I was there, I observed the judge committing criminal offences, and I stand over what I've done, and I stand over my views and my observations, and the conclusions that I came to. The judge committed 5 criminal offences, which I can stand over, and so in the background this whole time, although I was a civilian, taking part in repossession proceedings just for my own home as a family man, on the day that I was in court, it just so happens that I'm a police officer. So for the hundreds and thousands of people who go in front of the judiciary every day in the United Kingdom, in that court on that day, it just so happened that the person that the judge was committing criminal offences in front of just happened to be a police officer. And I've seen so many people having so many dubious decisions, and judges are law unto themselves, and they're not above the law. So when I seen them committing their criminal offences, I either had to shut my mouth and walk out of that court with my tail between my legs, or take action. And I believed it warranted me taking action, and I believed it was a lawful arrest. But when I arrested him, then the police came at my request to assist me, but they didn't assist me. They ended up arresting me for a jumped-up assault charge against the judge. He felt in fear for his safety because I raised my voice and told him he was under arrest. So I was arrested for an assault, spent the whole day in the police station, and then was brought back to the court. And the judge whom I arrested then held me in contempt of court, contempt in the face of court. And then I was put in trial, then found guilty, and then put in jail for 6 weeks. It was three months I was sentenced to, but I went to McGarry prison for 6 weeks. So it's just been a complete roller coaster the whole time, but there's obviously a lot more to it, and there's a lot more little sort of branches that could go off and explain different things, but that's basically what's been happening to me for the last 6 years.
So essentially that's turned your life completely upside down, it must have.
That's completely mad. I mean, I came out of prison in April, for April Fool's Day, the 1st of April, and then on the 6th of May, the PSNI then dismissed me because I had been convicted of contempt of court. So I'm going through the appeal process of that, and I'm taking an industrial tribunal against the police, and I've just been caught up in that. So it's just been non-stop litigation for the last 6 years. It's been crazy. It's a mad experience.
Wow, that takes a really heavy toll, and I know to be able to carry on and to fight against this, you must be getting some very good support from family and close friends, because I know that's vital at times like this. So during this process, during the process, I met up with a few guys down. We used to go down to Dublin. No one in Northern Ireland really had the education or knew about fighting the banks, and so we had to go down to Dublin and go down and do courses down there.
And when we were at the courses, every so often you would hear a Northern Irish accent asking, did that legislation apply in Northern Ireland? So we got to see a circle of people from Northern Ireland, and we got together and we formed a group. It's based in Cookstown there. So we were going together. It's really just lay litigants, of people who are protecting their own homes, coming together for a common aim to try and assist and as you say, give back up to each other. So that's common law in I. And it's on in the Glenavon Hotel every Monday night at 7:30 in Cookstown.
That's exactly what it's got to come back down to. It's individuals who have found themselves in a position where they're actually having had to challenge these people. As I've said to you before, Anthony, when I got Carlin Hughes versus Santander, when I got that case law, despite all the other bits attached to that case law, the fundamental aspect was, listen, you are a very big bank, but I can't take your word that this man owes you money. You've got to prove this man owes you money. That was the fundamental. When I produced that to my judge, I put Carlin Hughes versus Santander, she picked it up, she turned it over and put it face down and stated, I can't see that. I take the bank's word that you owe them money. And that was after she'd already stated, yes, we've heard of these SPVs that mortgages can be sold to. The fact that she's heard of SPVs should be stating, well, you're going to have to prove this now. You've got to prove this man owes you money, and you have to prove that you haven't sold it. And the basics of it is that most of these mortgages are sold. Now, we can talk about unfair agreements, which I've spoken to you before, Anthony. It's got to reopen that case because it's an unfair agreement. You've gone in as a reasonable man to borrow money from a bank that in their own legislation they can't lend you money. They cannot lend it you. This is why they take out the insurance policies under the European Parliamentary Directives. This is why they operate under the Bank of England quarterlies. Where is money created from? They're not lending you one penny. And for people to say that you should have morals and pay this money back, you should be paying something back to somebody who's not lent you anything. That just absolutely blows my mind. When you start to figure this stuff out, you've got to apply your own morals and principles and say, does the truth climb over the morals and principles? If I borrow something from somebody, I should pay them back, definitely. If I took something from somebody, they need compensating. But I'm not took anything from this bank who's claiming everything. Now, alright, we could say they're acting as trustees in our interest because the creditor must be paid back. But they're not telling you that you're the creditor and the debtor. You're taking up both positions in this case. You're the creditor and the debtor. That's what's being facilitated. Well, the fact is you don't want to pay yourself back. Can you decide not to pay yourself back? Can you change those arrangements? If it was a valid and just arrangement for yourself and the trustee arranging that, yes, it should. But they're pretending that they're actually lending you something, and that's what the crux of the problem is. They're not lending you a penny. So what's happening when the insurance policy is triggered? As in your case, Anthony, three defaults, the insurance is triggered. So if that insurance has already been paid off, that means everything that you allegedly owed yourself has been paid off. But the bank's not telling you that. Santander isn't telling you that. So therefore, it's an unfair agreement. It blows the lid right off it. Blows the lid.
Yeah, it's not even that there. I mean, whenever the banks do give you something, they do give you money that enables you to put the transaction through to purchase the house, and you get the property. And the judges always argue, didn't you get the money? And
yeah, they facilitate your credit. Your credit is being
facilitate credit. Yeah, so if the bank, if you go to the bank, whenever they say in the terms and conditions that they're going to lend you money, that's a lie.
Yep.
What they should say is that they're going to facilitate credit.
Yes.
If they were open and transparent, there shouldn't be a problem. But what actually happens is, and as a police officer, I had to really solidify that and ground that down, because when you start talking about this stuff, people think you're a free man of the land, or they start using terms which they're trying to use in a negative tone. They're trying to put you in conspiracy theory and all this bullshit. So I try to keep all the stuff I was dealing with as factual and as mainstream as I possibly could. So the final straw for me was when I seen the Bank of England quarterly report, and they're openly stating for the record that banks do not lend money, they cannot lend money, they facilitate credit. But they still, even the way that they put it, it's not put in a way that's very demeaning against the bank, or that you can see clearly. You still have to do a bit of thinking about it when you read it.
Yeah.
So the way that I see it is, if a bank can, once you sign the application form, you're basically giving them a signed cheque for the money, and then they put it behind their backs and take it back out and say, we're going to lend you this money, when it was yours in the first place.
Yeah.
And they put it. So if you're able to generate this alleged debt by signing a document, you should be able to pay off that debt by signing another document. Do you understand? So, I mean, the debt didn't exist in the first place, but if they're going to insist that you pay them back, it's like apples and oranges. They have given you to pay them back money that you go out and earn on a weekly basis in a job.
Yeah, exactly. The fact is, when what's happening with these banks is, the beauty of it is that if this money is coming from a creation of facilitated credit, then who is actually owed the money? The person is me. I'm the creditor, I'm now the debtor. They're not telling you what positions they're taking up under this agreement. And when it comes down to it, is they are acting as trustees. And as good trustees, they should make sure that the debtor pays the creditor back. But they aren't acting in that capacity. They are acting in the capacity where they then securitise and sell it. Now it's been sold. So say we've gone for £100,000. That's just been securitised and sold. Let's say they've just sold it for 90 grand. That 90 grand's gone straight in their back pocket. They're not telling you about that. 3 defaults, the insurance policy pays out the full amount. So that's now £190,000. They've been paid, plus what you've paid them per month with your interest. Now, after default comes foreclosure. So they now sell the property for £100,000. So that's £290,000 they've made from lending nothing. And people have got to understand that this money is not being lent. I had a lad, he's an intelligent lad, but he tells me that he believes that I think I'm right, when I'm saying the bank doesn't lend me money. But he went and got £25,000 from the bank that enabled him to buy his house that he no longer owes a mortgage on. Well, yes, you did go to the bank, but they didn't lend you this money. It was facilitated. It's your credit. And you try and start explaining that to people. You touched on a great point, Anthony, about all this bullshit about free man of the land, right? I've worked a lot with British Gas. Now, when you're going into these county courts, as Ben Gilroy's fucking court order shows, these courts only have jurisdiction over rateable properties. So anything that's rateable, so it's commercial property. So every possession, warrant possession that's been ordered they presumed it's a commercial property. How are they presuming that? They're presuming it because over here, council tax is being paid. You've got to look at your own Rates Act and find those body of words about domestic and non-domestic, because it'll be the same. It'll be in the same format, just differently, because obviously you've got your act, we've got the Local Government Finance Act. But once you touch on that this court, without an agreement before the proceedings or during the proceedings that both parties agree to, there is no jurisdiction. So they can't be issuing warrants of possession unless they presume they've got jurisdiction. And they're presuming jurisdiction because they presume it's a rateable property. Rateable properties have paid council tax. That's all they're basing it on. So that's the first point of attack. Let's do the council tax first, because this is now getting easier and easier and easier. Anybody who is paying fines, who is paying taxes, is all operating under commerce. Now, this is where you were saying, Anthony, we get thrown free man of the land bullshit. I've operated in commerce with British Gas at every stage, yet I'm told it's free man of the land bollocks. No, how can it be free man of the land? They want to get a warrant of possession to fit a pay-as-you-go meter. They've already got that warrant to fit a pay-as-you-go meter because it's statutory. They're legally qualified. They can fit one. However, I must consent to that meter being fitted. Otherwise, it's not coming. It's not going into my house. Now, the forced entry is for a completely different set of circumstances, which are pipes, fittings, escape of gas. So if there is no health and safety issue, you cannot force entry, because I can show you the 5 sections in the Gas Act that have powers of entry, that body of words. If they're not in that section, they don't have powers of entry, and they don't have powers of entry to fit a pay-as-you-go meter. That's how simple it was to decimate those 2 jurisdictions. That's not free man of the land, that is engaging in commerce. Can I walk past B&Q without the manager running outside, dragging me in, pointing at a hammer and some nails and saying, buy them? No, because that's commerce. If I want to buy a hammer and some nails, I'll go into B&Q. And it's the same with the county court, Her Majesty's Courts and Tribunals Service. They're offering a service. If I don't wish to have that service, can it be enforced upon me? No, it can't. That's not free man. That is absolute basic fucking commerce. And when people stop crying about this free man bollocks and realise just how simple commercial law is and what it applies and what it applies to, then people will start finding this stuff easier.
Mm-hmm. So I remember when we first talked about getting Anthony on, I remember you said, Paul, that you'd got some stuff that you wanted to bring up, particularly in reference to Ben Gilroy's recent case.
Yeah, I brought it up with Anthony before. It's the rateable properties. Anthony's already got back to me and said that the Local Government Finance Act 1992 doesn't apply in Northern Ireland. So it's whatever replaces that in Northern Ireland. So we've got the Local Government Finance Act. Anthony, do you say it's the National Rates Act?
It's the rates Northern Ireland Order 1981, I think it is. Right.
So in that, your rates applied to commercial non-commercial properties are in that act at some point somewhere. So we've got to find that body of words that relate to rateable properties or non-rateable properties, like we've done with the Local Government Finance Act. The fact is they use the term over here, they use the word hereditament. That means the property was, is, or could be a commercial property. But it is not shown anywhere in any database, nor is it required to be shown, that there are any exemptions from the non-domestic ratings list. So if you're on a non-domestic ratings list, that's a commercial ratings list. So what they're basically saying in their document is, it's not shown and we don't have to tell you that you're exempt. If you're stupid enough to pay a commercial tax and you don't understand what we're talking about, it's tough. That's exactly what the document states. We don't have to tell you that. It's not shown, nor is it required for us to tell you. That's how they talk. They don't have to tell you this stuff. It's the same as if you go to, if you need benefits, if you're not working and you need benefits, you go to the social, they will not tell you what you're entitled to. They will offer you what you think you're entitled to. And if you don't know what you're entitled to, you won't get it. That's how they work.
No, even on that one, Paul, we see so often. Well, when I used to watch the Television, which I haven't watched for a couple of years now, but we used to see so often this thing about, oh, there's so many millions of unclaimed benefits. But you try going in there and saying, well, I've just come in to check on if there's anything that I could claim that I'm not doing, and I've never found anybody to be very helpful in that situation when I've been out of work. That's for certain.
They're not paid to be helpful in that position, Andy. They're not paid to be helpful. They're paid to give you as very little as possible. You can see it in every walk of life now. People are actually embarrassed that they've actually had to do people who are on benefits. You know, they've blown the whistle and said, oh, well, we shouldn't have been doing this, blah, blah, blah. But they still did it. You know, it's, at the end of the day, it's, where do we go with this now? As everything what we're learning, where is it we go? Anthony can only go so far, I can only go so far, you can only go so far, and we can all exchange information and build things up to a crescendo. But other people have got to start looking at stuff from their own points of view. I'm not one of these people who say, right, you shouldn't pay your bills because you're not liable. You need to learn why you shouldn't be paying your bills, but don't upset your life and turn it upside down, especially if you've got a wife, kids, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to be making your life harder, but you need to learn, you need to understand this stuff, and then maybe take it forward. I was fortunate, I've only got me to look after. These people came after me, I thought, fuck it, do you know what? I'm sick of this. This is 3 payment plans, you've messed up now, I'm having this. Send me a paper bill. They sent me a paper bill with a cheque attached to it. And as soon as I understood that that was a cheque that they're sending me, I knew I wasn't liable. As soon as the legal clerk in the magistrate's court said that that is a legal remedy we don't deal with in this jurisdiction, I knew there was teeth in it. I knew that I wasn't liable to pay for my gas. And no matter where we went, British Gas just ran away. What else can you do? You can only keep saying, well, can we sort this out? Can you have a look? Whoa, hang on. Where are you running to? Can you have a look at, hello, have a look at this. Hello? And you get nowhere. You get nothing. What am I supposed to do? Run after these people for the rest of my days? No, bollocks to them. I've been at court. Before that district judge, I was ready to do everything. I was ready to put my case down, and they failed to turn up. Meaning that they put the burden of proof onto me. So now I have to become claimant to get the win what people keep asking for. You claim you've not paid for your gas for 5 years. Where's your win? Show me .gov.uk. Show me the court order. You're not getting a court order. You're not getting it unless you're taking this case to them. And, you know, after 7 years in court, 8 years in all in all with the property, but it's nice to not have to go to court. It's nice to balance it off and say, well, do you know what? I've taken you right up to the line here, and you've run off here. What's going on? There's something not right about how you're acting. All I'm doing is asking you questions, and you're running off." And Anthony was only doing that. Anthony was asking questions. He asked question upon question upon question. And as he got to learn more, the questions get tighter. And you see them physically. I mean, Anthony, you must have seen judges physically squirming in the chairs because of what you were putting to them.
Yeah, there was a few awkward moments and a few, when they try to just dominate you. Whenever you're trying to take a conversation a certain way and you're asking them very reasonable questions, and you're asking, one of the points you made earlier on was that, about the banks lending you money or not lending you money. What they're doing is the banks have never suffered harm or loss as a result of your actions. I'm not saying that they didn't facilitate money for me, but they told lies and duped me into that, but they haven't suffered harm or loss. So I'm saying to the judge, the basic premise of any court case, any civil court case, is that you have to have caused harm or loss to another human being, and they take you to court to get a remedy, to get a compensation off you. So I asked them, can Santander prove what harm or loss my actions has caused them? Can they show the money? Can they show the money they lent, and basically prove their losses? So that's why I used those legislation, the Banker's Book of Evidence. I think I gave you a slide there, Andy, but there's a Banker's Book of Evidence Act, the Interpretation Act 1954, and Ex Parte Livesy. And basically the three of them together compelled the judge to do what he should have done in the first place. It was very reasonable, but you're completely right. He squirms and he goes off and he tries to change the conversation, and he just won't answer a simple question. No. And when you ask him that, it just bat you back. And that's where I'm saying that's a criminal offence. Yeah. If he's there to administer justice, and he's not there to show fear or favour to anyone or to display bias. And when you ask for something reasonable, you shouldn't have to do his work to get him to do his job. But that's what's happening now. The judiciary, the hub in Mary Street in Dublin, they had a big massive banner, and it says, "The judiciary in Ireland are the enforcers of banking fraud." And that's completely right, and it's the same in Northern Ireland. The banks are committing fraud, the banks and the judges are just letting them off with it and basically covering up their tracks. And if there's any litigants that's giving them any trouble, they just use harder and harder tactics on them, to the point where I went for the jugular. I knew that I was being defrauded. I knew that there was criminality being used against me, and I knew that I was remaining in honour, that I was telling the truth, that there was nothing that I was doing was wrong, but these people were trying to hoodwink me, and I wasn't prepared to take it.
So, Anthony, how long were you actually a member of the police service in Northern Ireland?
Just this would have been into my 10th year this year.
Okay. And in all that time, did you ever come across a situation where you actually arrested somebody who you could see and could prove was committing a criminal offence and get disciplined over that?
Never.
No.
I had never been challenged. None of my arrests for 10 years were challenged, ever, except that one. I used the same logic, the same skills that I used for every other arrest, the same logic and the same, applying the same legislation. I'd done the exact same things for the arrest of Lord Justice Gillen that I've done for every other arrest. So that wasn't about what I'd done, that was about who I'd done it to. Yeah. They weren't prepared to allow that to happen. And I mean, I was speaking to a colleague over in England, and he's got connections to one of the most senior judges over in England, and he got a chance to speak to him off the record, and they were talking about his case and how much trouble his case was causing them in the courts in England, because he's got lots of evidence that proves the banks are acting fraudulently. But the judge said, it's not just your case that's giving us trouble. Have you heard about the cases over in Ireland? And he says, as you said, Paul, there, he automatically assumed it was Ben Gilroy, because he's getting so many fantastic results. And he says, no. He says, did you hear about the police officer in Northern Ireland that arrested the judge? He says it was a lawful arrest every day of the week.
Yeah.
And the judge made two mistakes. The first mistake was that he committed criminal offences in front of someone whose job it was to prevent and detect crime. That was his first mistake. And his second mistake was his ego. He then thought he made something that was bad even worse by arresting me for contempt of court, which it never was, and then putting me in this trial. And once they stepped over that line, they couldn't turn around, they couldn't go back. They had to make it look like I was guilty. They had to make me the scapegoat, because there was two scenarios. Either I was completely wrong or I was completely right. And if I was completely right, that means that the judiciary in Northern Ireland, as I still allege, are a cabal. They're a cabal who are enforcing banking fraud to the loss and to the detriment of the people of Northern Ireland. And it's
the execs.
I haven't actually.
Judiciary work hand in hand.
Yeah, they do, and that for me was a very bad place to be, because I had spent 10 years arresting people and thinking I was doing a good public job, and I tried to. When I was in the police, I tried to police in such a way that I was helping society. If someone had no MOT, I give them advice and warning and had a word in their ear, and it wasn't about revenue collection. It wasn't about giving them tickets. It wasn't about any of that sort of stuff there. It's about making sure a 6-year-old child in the back of the car has a seatbelt on, so that if there's a car crash, he doesn't go through the windscreen. Because that stuff happens, and there's a lot of good work that police can do, but you're not to be there to generate revenue for the government. That's not what I was there for. But as you say there was nothing that I did on the 12th of January when I arrested the judge that was any different from the arrests I'd done for the previous 10 years. Yeah, I was arrested for that.
It's
disgusting.
That is an absolutely disgusting situation. We've got something that's been brought up in the chat room, and I'd just like to read out. Mithrin, who I know has had some legal training himself, brings up the word usufruct. And he says, if A pays B for no reason, it is unlawful for B to continue to accept payments until B works it out for himself. Oh, until A works it out for himself. Sorry, he got the letters wrong way around there.
Yeah.
So essentially,
we said
what the banks seem to be doing, they've created this scenario where we're misled, and so long as we don't find out the truth of it, we just continue to pay said mortgage until such time as it's finished. And if they lend you 100 grand, they make 300 grand out of it, and they've risked nothing.
Well, the beauty of it is the Crown has taken it upon themselves to hide in legislation the fact that these people can legally commit fraud, because what's happened is when we were talking about an unfair agreement, you actually go in to a bank as a reasonable man, thinking that bank is lending you their money, so therefore you must pay them back. So you accept that, and you accept that you must pay this money back, but that's not what's happening. So the fact is, there's an unfair agreement. So how do I now prove an unfair agreement? Well, it's hidden in the Consumer Credit Act, because people think that they go to a bank and they borrow physical money. Why would they look for a remedy in a credit agreement? Nobody believes that their mortgage is a credit agreement when it clearly is a credit agreement. Credit is being monetised, being facilitated, therefore it's a credit agreement. Nobody's borrowing anything, there is no contract of money being lent, blah 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 blah. It's straightforward commerce, except they're not telling you where this money's being created from. And when you look at the Bank of England quarterlies, how this money is created, it's actually monetised credit, and the credit is yours, and without you being the that credit is not being monetised and it cannot be put into anybody's bank account. And then you're charged interest on top of that, and the interest pays for an insurance policy. But they don't bother telling you this stuff. They don't bother telling you about the securitisation. So all the stuff that's put in place to actually help you as a consumer and to pay your mortgage off, they don't bother telling you about. You know, the fact that they sell it, the securitising, sell your mortgage, as soon as it's been sold, whatever it's been sold for must come off what you allegedly owe yourself, the debtor. The debtor owes the creditor so much. Once it's been sold, that comes down. So £100,000, the mortgage is sold for 90, you owe yourself £10,000. That's what they're doing as trustees. They would be doing it for themselves if they were lending it you. They would take it upon themselves to reduce their liability. But they're not lending it you. They are actually reducing your own liability by selling this, and they don't bother telling you that. And that's the start of the fraud. And people can say, oh, well, you participated in the fraud because you didn't have the money, blah, 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 blah. Well, you didn't enter that agreement knowing that you didn't have that money. You thought you was being lent that money. So therefore, you've entered a reasonable agreement. And it's not. It's an unfair agreement. And that's where it starts to become unpicked. And then when you bring in the Ben Gilroy High Court order talking about rateable properties and jurisdiction only over rateable properties, straight away everything's starting to come undone. You can't look any further. It's all there. It's all poetic. It's all set up. You've just got to keep talking about it, and you've got to set your tin ducks up, because I'd love one man to just go and take everything on, one woman to go and take everything on, and get case law after case law after case law after case law, because it'd be so much easier for you to just turn up. Case law. I turned up with case law. I had somebody turn case law over. So case law doesn't necessarily mean everything. People are saying, oh, well, he lost in this court case. He's lost, he's lost, he's lost. I lost in my court case. Anthony lost in his court case. Did it mean we were wrong when we lost? No. We were both fucking right. We were both fucking right. So it's bullshit that people want to jump on wagons and say you lost because your argument was shit. No, arguments haven't been shit. Arguments have been good. We've offered remedies and we've been ignored. That's nothing to do with how it's been put across and whether you dotted the I's and crossed the T's on your legislation. It's basic legislation. It's an ignorance of. It's not even an ignorance of law anymore. It's an ignorance of language. You've got to understand what language is being used and what participates in your world. This is where then people start talking about free man of the land. Well, I'm sorry, but if I drop a piece of paper on the floor and somebody says, you've just littered, what's your name? And I don't give them my name, they've got nobody to fine if I don't participate in giving my name and signing that ticket. I can pick my rubbish up because I'm a dirty tramp, or I might have done it by mistake. I put the rubbish in the bin. I'm not going to talk to you. Fuck off. Stop asking me my name. Phone the police. The police will come and prevent breach of the peace. You're breaching the peace, nobody else. That's free man of the land? No, it's basic participation in commerce. There's a ticket here, there's a PCN, penalty charge notice. Do you want to pay it? What's your name? That's it. What's your name? Well, I don't have to give you my name. What do you mean? Well, I don't have to give you my name. Don't even have to speak to a policeman unless the policeman suspects me of a crime. And a piece of paper on the floor is not a crime. So it's not free man, it's participation in commerce. That's the simplicity of it. You can't get away from how simple it is. Are you participating in paying for something that you don't have to? Yes, you are. As soon as you give your name and details and you sign something, you've participated in that. If you don't participate, there is no fine. No sign, no fine. That's not free, man. That is basic fucking commerce.
Yeah, something I'd like to ask Anthony. You served 10 years as a police officer. I'd be interested to know, what sort of reactions have you had from your colleague since the time when you arrested the judge?
Probably fear and silence. When they see me coming, they sort of look and go the other way. They don't. It's a funny sort of feeling. Every police officer that I've spoken to, I've asked them very simple questions. I've said to them, if me arresting that judge was unlawful, can you tell me what part of the PACE, the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, or the Code of Ethics, the stuff.
Oh, we're having a bit of a Skype problem here. Are you still there, Anthony? Okay, we seem to have lost Anthony. Skype's frozen, and Paul seems to be missing. So, Paul's still here. Okay. Well, we're just coming up to the end of the first hour, so this is the point at which we normally have a music break anyway. So we're a few minutes early, but we'll bang a tune on, and we'll see if we can reconnect the call with Anthony. So I've got a track lined up here, and it's from Dermot's 2 Hours. And thanks to Jack for pointing us towards this band. They've put out some great songs. We'll be back in about 5 minutes, folks, hopefully with Anthony Carlin back on the line. See you in a minute.
On the street, sleeves rolled up and his hair clipped neat, and a faded smile on his cheeks. He said, we should have spoken, but my work here is near complete. I've stolen the ground from under your feet, but I won't have taken what I seek until I see you broken. Tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor, rich man, poor man, thief. Your heart bleeds, but your veins are hollow. Where I lead, I know you'll follow, and sure as hell the lies you swallow beg a belief. You always fought the good fight, but now you don't know your left from your right. Your white's black, your black is white. Admit you've been forsaken. All you believe once, now you doubt. The urge conceives all scraped out. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. He said, you are mistaken. Tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor, rich man, poor man, thief. Your heart bleeds, but your veins are hollow. Where I lead, I know you'll follow, and sure as hell, the lies you swallow beg a belief. On, you stand still, you cast your vote, they shoot to kill. Now you raise money where you raised hell. It's sad your fate's so shaken, but I denied I played his game. He said, you shouldn't feel ashamed, you know it's all done in your name. This is the path you've taken. Tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor, rich man, poor man, thief. Your heart bleeds, but your veins are hollow. Where I lead, I know you'll follow, and sure as hell the lies you swallow beg a belief. I caught his arm and I cried, you know, whatever power you take now, the wheel will always turn. We'll rise again when the cold wind blows across your grave. He said, who knows, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Call me, I will return. Tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor, rich man, poor man, thief. Your heart bleeds, but your veins are hollow. Where I lead, I know you'll follow, and sure as hell, the lies you swallow. Tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor, hollow. Where I lead, I know you'll follow. Sure as hell the lies you swallow. Tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor, rich man, poor man, thief. You're half pleased, but your veins are hollow. Where I lead, I know you'll follow. And sure as hell the lies you swallow. Beg a belief. To the herd. This is the trickster's instinct, this is the bitch's creed. Caught in the crash, you jostle and push till the coppers give the word. Through the gate in the crazy late stampede. Stand by yourself as your ribs break and you suffocate like soldiers in the trenches, like chickens in the pen. Stand by yourself, shut your fucking prattle, mate. Just sing a song, you'll never walk again. Riding the train in the fine spring rain up to the city lights. Hiding behind your paper, checking the latest price. With the drivers working round the clock, it's sold and battered, rolling stock. You're heading up the junction and tearing out the side. Stand by yourself as the engines crash and the windows smash. Crawl on the ceiling, cling to the racks and make for the open air. Stand by yourself, bodies laid out on the grass. Kneel and whisper in their ears and tell them how you care. Summer in the city, terror in the air. They went to hunt some desert rats, but now they're crawling over here. Send for the real inspector hound, there's trouble on the underground. Mind the gap before you disappear. Salute the pregnant torso in the square. You're growing old and sick now, you're a burden to your wife. There are things they need to fix now under the surgeon's knife. But as you dream beneath the mask, invisible armies are on the march. They're digging trenches in your flesh and threatening your life. It's not much use to you. Stand by yourself, it's all about resistance, son. Little for the many and plenty for the few. Stand by yourself as chickens all come home to roost, falling with the fever and burning on the fire. Stand by yourself, ladies and gentlemen, drink a toast to those who feed the flames and those caught in the fire.
Dr. Judy Wood, and you're listening to Raconteurs News.
Welcome back to Raconteurs News. We've been praying to the sky gods all on our knees all the way through that music break there, and it appears we've got Anthony back on the line now. Welcome back, Anthony.
Hello. Sorry about that, guys. There are technical problems.
Yeah. No, we often have problems with Skype. We're looking at alternatives, but it's so difficult to find one that people can agree on and everybody's happy to use. But hopefully we'll get there in the end. So yeah, we've done the first hour. We've had a break. Are you actually still in your house, Anthony?
Yes, I reckon. I mean, Santander. When I arrested the judge, it was this time last year that I was going in to strike out, make an application to strike out my case, and Lord Justice Gillan heard the case over 3 days. So then he basically went against me in January, and then because I observed criminality, I arrested him. But Santander haven't come back near me again since. So I'm now another year down the line, and it's not that I'm trying to get something for free, or I'm trying to dupe people, or I'm trying to do anything dishonourable. They've done something dishonourable, and I'm standing here as the man of my family, trying to defend the property and protect my children and my wife. So yeah, I'm still in the house. I reckon they're at least, from the minute they recommence proceedings, they're at least 2 years away from realistically being able to repossess my house. At least 2 years.
Wow, yeah, it's quite a strange situation. So are you? I know that in Paul's case, he got steamrolled in the court, and but he's in the position now where the British Gas are leaving him alone, basically ignoring him, rather than go to court and set a precedent. Is that a situation you'd be happy to be in until such, or not happy, comfortable being in until such time as they do decide to start proceedings again? Or are you looking at doing something yourself to sort this situation out, to arrive at some kind of remedy?
I formed the conclusion that mortgages in their current form are fraud. Each and every one of the mortgages are fraud, and people are talking about sort of meeting the banks halfway and trying to come to some sort of remedy. The only remedy we've got here is that the bankers go to jail and all of the debts are forgiven because they were obtained in the first place in a fraudulent manner. And no family should have to sit and go out and work 40 hours a week to pay money that was obtained fraudulently by the banks. I'm not going to give them a penny, and I'm going to put the bastards in jail. That's my goal. I'm not backing down from this, you know. Yeah. It makes my blood boil, because look at the suicide rates up and down the length and breadth of Ireland and the UK. The hub in Mary Street, they're constantly putting stuff on, and Ken Smullen, I've never had the pleasure of meeting him. He's an absolute legend. I've got so much respect for him. He's constantly putting stuff up and going out on the ground, going to people's houses and dealing with that stuff. Where there's a wife and 2 or 3 kids sitting there, and there's no longer a husband because he couldn't stand the pressure the banks and the bailiffs and the money collectors and the courts and the judges are putting on these families. You can't, as my granny says, you can't take knickers of a bare arse, is the saying that I grew up with. And these people don't have enough money to live. They don't have enough money to basically survive. Yet the banks and all these bullies are coming in and trying to force them to do what can't be done. I'll not stop until mortgages become the new PPI. If you've ever took out a mortgage, then you're entitled to a claim off the banks. Exactly if you look at them, yeah. So some people want to go for some half-assed remedy where it sort of fits everybody. I'm not willing to bend not one iota towards a criminal cabal of bankers and judges who are defrauding and stealing properties and money and wealth from the people of the country. I don't accept that at all.
Exactly.
Well, I think we need more people like yourself, and I think you are possibly in a a very different situation to a lot of other people, because people don't have your knowledge that you gained as a police officer. And also, one thing that is absolutely amazing about this is there is no statute of limitations on fraud. So that means that I did a mortgage years ago. I've got a claim, doesn't it?
Everybody else.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, my parents, they worked for 25, 30 years to pay off their house, and it left them pretty skint all of that time. Unfortunately, now they're getting quite elderly, and perhaps might not be able to enjoy the fruits of a successful claim, but it's still out there, isn't it, for anyone who's ever had a mortgage?
Yeah, and I'm not saying, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are a lot more clued up than myself, and what they're saying is not all mortgages are the same, and it's not all just black and white. What I'm saying is, if a bank has misled a customer and pretended or alluded to the fact that they were going to lend them money from some big account, and that person had to pay it back, if that was the pretense of the arrangement, then the mortgage is taken out under misrepresentation. So there's non-disclosure of pivotal facts, and there was no equal consideration. So the whole contract falls down on its ass, and it's not enforceable. So I would, from my learned friends, people who know more about it, they would say that it's not just cut and dried, and there's other incidents. You know, there's a guy, Tony O'Tierney. He's at the University in Leicester. He's a fantastic guy, wealth of knowledge, and there's stuff. You know, these guys are like Tefal heads. You ever see the advert for Tefal back in the 80s, with the guys with the big, super extended heads to try and fit all their brains in? You know, so there's a lot of guys like that about, and I'm not at their level of knowledge. But I have a good working knowledge of enough stuff that I'm confident to go into court and try and deliver it. So you don't have to have a massive amount of knowledge. You just have to have enough of the knowledge and go in and be very resolute and be determined to go in and fight for your property, tooth and nail.
Understand where you stand in this stuff. It's finding where you stand and what your actions are actually doing. When you stand before these people and you give them no jurisdiction, that's basically what you've just given them, is no jurisdiction. So they can't claim jurisdiction. But they are claiming jurisdiction, but it's overratable, which is commercial properties. So straight away they're on a downer, because we can show we live in private domestic properties. It's too easy. It's getting far, far too easy. You can use plain English and put this information out in less than 2 minutes. And it's because these people want a certain amount of words put in a certain position and delivered in a certain way for it to trigger what they could consider a valid argument. That's all they're doing. That's what they hide behind. Are you providing a valid argument? Well, the fact is you're lending me nothing. You know, when we go back to Andy, when I started this stuff off, it was all the property stuff like Anthony. It was all somebody wanted to take my property. Well, I don't care what she does with her half of the property. She can sell it. I don't care. But I'm not selling my half. That was it. That's where it should have ended. When the gas stuff came in, I just basically asked them questions. Why are you sending me a cheque? You've sent me a cheque to pay this gas bill. You've sent me a cheque and you claim I owe you this money. I can't do anything with this cheque, so I'm transferring it back to you, my agent, to deal with it. And they ran off. So I've given them a cheque to settle my account and they ran away. Yet they took the payments out of their bank account and issued it, because they took the under the Bills of Exchange Act, they took up two positions. They took up the draw and the drawee. So they went to their cash draw, they become the drawee because they drew out a certain amount of monies that they claimed I owed them, but they couldn't get access to, so they issued it in the form of a cheque to me, the payee. I can't do anything with this cheque, so I transfer the cheque back to them. Please settle my account. And they ran off. So anybody who sends me a cheque and claims I owe them money, then it's more than likely I don't owe them that money. Because if somebody owes me £100, I'm not going to give them a cheque of my own for them to pay me back. It doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous.
And that is a very similar situation to the mortgage situation, isn't it? Because I saw an excellent video, I think it was on Mark Salon's channel a few weeks back, about it was an American courtroom, and they actually got the guy from the bank on the stand, and they were asking him, where does the funding for this alleged loan come from? And he said, well, it's in the loan note. And where does the value from the loan note come from? And he admitted it was the signature. And he even pleaded the fifth when they asked him, is that correct then that no money has actually been lent? He pleaded the Fifth Amendment, a right to remain silent. So, the cat's out of the bag. It's just finding honest judiciary that will find... correctly, isn't it?
And there are some honest judiciary. Fortunately, I met one. Judge Fairclough was exactly what his name said. He was fair. This fella, the solicitor, tried to apply for authority to sell title numbers that had already been sold. I had 3 title numbers to my property, and they sold all 3 title numbers under the one title. So I claimed this title back and said, no, I want this title. I'm going to grow vegetables on this land. This is my property. Anyway, the judge started talking to the solicitor. I kept trying to interject because I thought, I'm getting bummed here. I'm getting done again. And he took his glasses off and he said, Mr. Webster, please, I've asked you now on 3 occasions to not interject. You will get your chance to have your say. However, for now, please listen to what I've got to say, because you may hear something you want to hear. And as soon as he said that, I put my pen down and sat up, and I thought, okay, I've never heard that one before. You crack on, let's see what you've got to say. So he put his glasses back on and he turns to this fellow, he says, Mr. Richardson, are you telling me that as a partner in your firm of solicitors that you haven't done your due diligence to find out how many titles there were to actually for this property to be sold? I'm very sorry, but I don't believe this court has jurisdiction to award you the authority to sell this title. And I was shocked. And he turns to me and he says, Mr. Webster, have you anything to say? And I said, yes. I said, I'd like restoration of my property. And he went, did you hear what that man just said? So this man thing, he recognised me as a man in the county court because I said, I require my property. That was it. Just because I required it. And this fella played the game. Boom. If I'd have had that judge all the way through, there would have been no problems. It's just they handpicked these judges to make sure that this fraud is committed. This judiciary and executive work hand in glove. And it's 2 wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. You've already been found guilty when you stand in there. It doesn't matter what you say, what you do. That's why I started to use their legislation against them, particularly with the gas stuff. People are saying, well, there's no contract, you shouldn't accept this because it's not that name and it's in all capitals and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Somebody's sending me a cheque that is beneficiary to me. So I'm the beneficiary of this cheque. So why would I not pick up my legal name to engage in commerce at this point? I'm getting my gas for free. This is what this is telling me. I'm getting it for free. Why would I not embrace this? I can't go from that to telling people that under the UCC filings, everything's been foreclosed on. because I can't explain to my friends and my neighbours that the gas is free. How do you then explain that there is no system for them to operate in when that's all they've been brought into is this system? So I think you've got to find a balance at some point and try and explain why this system is foreclosed on, but also explain how you can use this system to get yourself out of it. Don't be so worried about using this name stuff. You know, you can pick this name up and put it down whenever you like. Parking tickets, whatever you want. Nobody's giving you a parking fine unless you're filling your details in and signing it. Nobody's being fined. That's the simplicity of it. You cannot be fined if you've not signed.
Yeah, that's excellent summing up there, Paul. So, do you have? I mean, I know it's very difficult to talk about some things because you may have certain things up your sleeve that you perhaps rather not give away. Do you have a plan that you could share with us that you can move forward with this, Anthony, or is that something you'd rather keep under wraps for now?
Well, at this minute in time, I mean, the case against Santander seems to be on hold at the minute. If and when they're ready, I'm ready to go forward because all the points I've got are so strong. I've completely ripped them apart. The judge on that day said he wasn't prepared to deal with it because that was a matter for the trial judge. And I knew that was bullshit because it's Rule 1 of the Supreme Court rules in Northern Ireland, the rules of the judicature, is the overriding principle. If you can do something to stop litigation today and come to a resolution, it's more economical and it cuts out all the crap and it gets to the heart of the matter. That's the overriding principle. And I gave them an option to finish litigation. If they produce the books and show me that they lent money, then I'll pay them back everything they want. And if they don't produce the books or can't produce them, that means that they're committing fraud and I don't owe them any money. Either way, the case finishes today. So moving forward, that's what's going to happen in the next court. And I will stand my ground and demand that they prove that I've caused them harm or loss. I entered this agreement believing that they lent me money. And I now know for an absolute 100% fact, and it's backed by the Bank of England's quarterly report, that Santander/Abbey National never lent me any money. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't pay them back a penny from the day that I took out this mortgage, they wouldn't have suffered any harm or any loss. So if they can prove that, then they can take the house off me. But until that point, they're not getting it. So I've sort of put that case on hold for now. And now it's became about me trying to basically get reinstated in my job. But I'm now in a position where it's an untenable position. I'm on here doing radio interviews and telling people I'm a police officer or I was a police officer, so I can't really get back into that job, you know, in the climate in Northern Ireland. But I'm trying to get justice in relation to me being fired for just simply having told the truth and done my job exactly as I was trained to do. There's nothing that I did that was outside the parameters of my training. So at the minute, I'm taking out an industrial tribunal against the police. I'm in the third and final stage of the appeal process to stay in the job. So I've got all the timeline. So my sort of life has moved on. That I'm just focusing on just that, and I'm putting all my effort into it. And it's very, very difficult. The one thing that I've learned is that police officers, prison officers, and I think army as well, you're a servant of the Crown. You're not an employee. You've got absolutely no rights under employment legislation. You don't have a contract of employment. You know, I believed I had a contract of employment. And I don't. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
No, I'm saying, tell me about it.
Yeah. So
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So what I was saying, what I said to the police, I went into the Chief Constable, George Hamilton, during the appeal process. And when I went in to see him, by that stage I'd been in jail and just I hadn't been paid in months and just my whole life had fell apart. So when I went in to see him, pretty much as soon as I walked in, everyone in the room stood up except for me. And then when he eventually sat down, I says, "Well, George, how's the form?" And I wasn't doing it to be disrespectful, but I was just sort of setting the tone for how I was going to speak to him. He was no longer my boss, so I had no obligation to stand up to show him respect.
Exactly.
And I had no intention of getting in there to bow down to him or be, subservient to him because of the way he had treated me and my family.
Yeah.
So, and I explained that. I didn't just leave it hanging there. I explained why I'd done it, but I told him very clearly that I wasn't there to beg for my job. I was there to tell him to do his job. I had made very serious allegations about a senior judge in Northern Ireland that he was involved in criminality in the Royal Courts of Justice, and that if they threw me into jail and done all that stuff, I've took that in the chin. But now you have to turn around and look at the accusations that I'm making. I'm a 10-year constable. I know for a fact that I've seen criminality, and to be fair and just, you have to at least investigate my claims.
Yes.
But to date, the PSNI have never even taken the statement of complaint from me. They won't listen to anything I'm saying, and the judges have basically sewed everything up between the judiciary, the police ombudsman for Northern Ireland, the Attorney General, and the Police Service in Northern Ireland. They all worked each other to be able to manage me so that I was basically in a legal position. They just froze me out and left it that I couldn't do anything. So the way that it worked was that the police arrested me. But if they had have interviewed me, I could have made allegations against the judge, which they would have been duty bound to investigate. So instead of them interviewing me, it was the ombudsman for Northern Ireland, the police ombudsman. They interviewed me, and they can't investigate judges. So all they could do was just manage me, put me in bail, and they put me in bail for 30 days. And before the 30 days was up, I was back in court on trial, and then the judges found me guilty and threw me in jail. So at no point have I ever been able to make a complaint. At no point have they ever listened to me. And I'm now going down the avenue of trying to fight to keep my job or to get compensation for the way that they've treated me.
Well,
so that's the way things are now.
I went to, during the tenure of all this stuff, as it was building up and everything, Anthony, I went to Citizens Advice, and I spoke with a barrister. He's an ex-barrister. He was at the time anyway. He's retired, obviously. He listened to all my story about what was going on in the court, and he said, "That's theft." I said, "Yes, I know that." I said, "But how can I prove this?" And straight away he went on the defensive and said, "I can't represent you." I said, "I don't need you to represent me." I said, "I just need to know whether I'm talking the truth or whether I'm misleading myself or I'm talking absolute bullshit." And he said, "No, it's theft. What you're telling me is what's happening is theft." Now, because when I asked about jurisdiction, I ended up with armed response police surrounding me. Over the first 5 hearings, over 30 coppers, including armed response and video evidence gatherers, and they're looking for stuff to try and weed me out for some reason. And it was absolutely bullshit. I just couldn't understand it. I'm having my property stolen here with no jurisdiction, with no authority, and the very people who I'm meant to report this to are standing around me with guns. So I couldn't get an interview with the police. I had to go through the IPCC to actually get an interview with a constable. She interviewed me for an hour and a quarter and told me that this was straight criminal theft. She then took everything through to a DC, a detective constable, in fact a sergeant, and she came back through and said, "Unfortunately, it's a civil matter." I said, "Is your detective sergeant legally trained?" She said, "No, but he knows a bit more about it than I do." So straight away, I was beaten at giving an interview to the police, not because the constable didn't understand what theft was, because she understands the difference between what is civil and what is criminal law. And as soon as she understood that, all she could do was apologise. All she could do was apologise to how she couldn't help me. Now, I sat with a solicitor. Andy's heard this loads of times. You might have heard it yourself, Anthony. But I sat with a solicitor who I asked, where does a judge get authority over me and my property without my consent in a county court? And he told me, after making a call, it was the Trustees of Land Act. And I said, that's an act. I said, if I don't agree to that act, then how can that be enforced against me? And he said, I don't understand what you mean. I said, there's a sign on the wall, says £1,000 fine, no spitting. There's a policeman stood next to it. I spit on the floor. Am I going to be arrested? He said, no, it's not an arrestable offence. I said, is he going to fine me? He said, yes. I said, how's he going to do that? He said, he's going to request your details. I said, am I obliged to give him my details if I've not committed a crime? He said, no. And I said, so how's he going to fine me? And the solicitor slumped back in his chair and said, 26 years I've done this job and you've just coached me on law, because I have to offer my details to the copper and sign something for him to be able to fine me for that spitting incident. That's not free man of the land, that is commerce. That's an offer of something to be compensated by someone. Do you want to do it? Yes, I'll do it. There's my name, there's my address, there's my signature. Now you've got me to convince myself to pay for that. That's how simple this stuff is. Break it right down to the simplicity.
Yeah, we've got a question from Mithrin in the chat room, and he says, can I respectfully ask Anthony, has he ever sworn out a warrant? And if so, does he remember the magistrate using an embossing press rather than an ink stamp?
I've done warrants before, different warrants, to go out and search for stolen property and stuff. And we had to go to a lay magistrate. It's a member of the public, you know, like a notary or something like that. It's a lay magistrate. And when you go out to them, you know, they've got reference books and they've got all their diaries and stuff like that. And they completely grilled me and asked me every piece of legislation that I was using in order to go in and breach someone's human rights. And to be honest, I was very impressed at how thorough they were. So basically, for, you know, you go to an inspector in the station and get him to authorise it, and then you go to the lay magistrate and then they rubber stamp it. So it's gone through two filters before you're able to do it. So I never had to go and get one before a judge in the line of work that I was doing. So I can't really answer that question about the embossed stuff. But I know that anytime I've done it, it was very, very thorough, and I was actually impressed at how thorough it was.
Oh, well, thanks for that. Yeah, unfortunately we can't confirm that, but it does seem that they're very thorough, except for when the banks are involved. And then...
That's what he was saying, though, Andy. It was criminal. The one that Anthony was involved in was criminal. The ones that the banks are involved are civil. And it's understanding what the civil representation is. Where is it that you become civil? It's for a fair agreement. So you're only going to take on the aspects of a civil argument if it is a civil agreement. Is it a fair agreement that you've had? We've already discussed the insurance policies aren't fair. The mortgage isn't fair. The insurance policies for the PPI aren't fair, and the mortgages are the extension of the PPI. They take out insurance policies. They're being paid out in full for your defaults. Every man and woman who's defaulted has been paid out by an insurance policy, and the bank or building society have lied to them or kept it from them. And that's the basics of this stuff. Nobody reads the terms and conditions. Christ, I didn't read my terms and conditions until I started researching this stuff, and then I saw, wow, I've given a power of attorney away here. Now, do they think that they can just keep creating documents in my name? No. They might think that. They can only create one, and that's a securitisation to reduce liability. They're not lending it me, so they're acting on my behalf. So they're actually reducing my liability by selling it. Why aren't they telling me that? Why aren't they telling me that instead of owing myself £100,000, I only owe myself 90? 10, because I've sold it for 90. Why aren't they telling me that bit? That is where this process has led to. It's not about people finding loopholes and getting away with not paying for stuff. Everybody, and myself included, has stood there with their feet on the line and said, I'll pay you what I owe you. If I borrow from you, I owe you, I will pay you. But if I've not borrowed from you, who the fucking hell do I owe, and why am I struggling like this? And why are you doing what you're doing and pretending I owe you money when that's not the case? As soon as you start asking those questions, they run like fuck, the judiciary backs them up, and then you're up against everything.
And that's pretty much the way it's worked out for you as well, isn't it, Anthony?
Yeah, the whole thing is just rigged in their favour, and it's one set of rules for them and one set for everybody else. Anytime you're saying there about the police using stuff as a civil matter, there's a case I'm helping a guy with here in Northern Ireland, and it's a perfect example where he went over to England and took out a Jeep on it was a hire agreement. So he believed it was a hire purchase. And again, to the average man, a hire agreement or a hire purchase agreement or a lease plan, they all sort of sound the same. But basically, what he wanted was he wanted to give them a deposit, pay off the payments for 2 or 3 years, and then pay them a lump sum at the end, and then keep the Jeep. That was his intention. So in the middle of that, he left England. He hurt his shoulder, came back to Northern Ireland, and then he had a lot of personal stuff going on. So he had a bit of he had depression and stuff like that, and he couldn't go to work. So what happened was the company tried to come and take the Jeep back off him, and eventually what they done was they agreed to give him a 7-month break in the payments, and that was very honourable, and they worked with him. But then after the 7 months was up, they wanted all of the arrears and the balloon payment. They wanted something like 14 grand up front, and he could no one could do that. And he says, look, just refinance all these payments. They wouldn't do it. So then he basically said, well, let's take it to a civil court. Then he wasn't going to be held ransom by them. He's a very determined young fella. So what happened was they then reported it to the police as being stolen, and the police. It was alerted on the police system. The police came to his house. They made a muck up. They were supposed to arrest him, but they didn't actually arrest him. But basically, he's up in court last week for a trial in front of a jury for the theft of a Jeep that was taken out on a contract. And it's because it's in front of a jury, it's very, very important. So there's so many things that they've done wrong, but I mean, this was a civil matter every day of the week. It should have been dealt with in a civil court, and the police here are sticking their nose in and pretending this is criminal when it's clearly not. But every other time there's a civil matter.
Was it taken out? Was it a contract then? If it's credit agreement, it's not a contract. So right. There again, is it an unfair agreement? The people who've facilitated the credit for him to get this Jeep, are they claiming they've lent him the money? Because whatever company it is, they're underwritten by banks, these bastards, because only a bank can facilitate credit. So it's still a credit agreement, and that's still going to come under whether it's a fair or an unfair agreement. Has he borrowed the money? No, he's not. So it's absolutely crazy, but he's facing. They said to him, if you make an admission, we'll give you a caution. We'll give you an adult caution, a slap on the wrist. He says, I'm not admitting to it. I've done nothing wrong. So because he's failed to admit to a crime he didn't commit, it's now got to the stage he's in Crown Court in front of a jury, and he could go to jail for 6 months for stealing this Jeep. So I just helped him. And again, I don't have a chip on my shoulder where I'm trying to show up police, or I'm trying to just show up
all I've ever done is focus on the absolute truth about what happened. Let's look at all of the facts, let's expose all of the facts, and then let the jury decide who's guilty. Because from my reading of it, the only person who hasn't been dishonest is the guy who bought the Jeep. The company was dishonest. They covered up certain facts and they told lies in their affidavits. The police didn't caution this man. They told him he was under arrest, but they never cautioned him, never told him what the offence was, which is a breach of peace. So when he went to the police station, he was unlawfully detained for 3 hours before they interviewed him because he was never actually arrested. And they're now bringing him on a jury trial in a Crown Court that's based upon an unlawful arrest and an unlawful detention for what's really a civil matter, and it shouldn't have been there in the first place. So it's squeaky bum time for him, but it's a very, very interesting and very, very pivotal case because we've got a finance company before a jury, and if we can show that they never given them money in the first place and they facilitated credit and have told lies and duped him, and that's before a jury, we're hoping to go for jury nullification. Definitely. For them to make a decision. Yeah,
definitely. Look at the unfair agreements, though, in particular with that, because that will underline everything what you're putting before the jury. A fair agreement is that this company is lending him money. This company is not lending him money. You can show that. It's too easy to show it. So easy to show it. And fucking hell, mate, you can just see how everything in this nature is just unravelling. Just unravelling everywhere. Yeah,
it does seem to me, right at this minute, we seem to be at a really critical time because the cat's out of the bag, and there's a lot of people that know it. There's maybe a lot more people that need to know it. But once that cat's out of the bag, without some sort of totalitarian dictatorship, they're beat, aren't they?
Yeah, I believe they are. I believe they are. The way everybody and anybody is coming at this stuff from so many different angles, so many attacking it from accepted for value, checks coming through the post, insurance policies, Bank of England quarterly. Everybody's presenting this stuff, and it's showing the system can't operate how it believes it does. It's showing that it can't operate this way because of all these other components. And when you start pointing out the components, people have got to start asking questions. Now, it's fine for somebody to tell me I'm talking a load of bollocks about your gas being free because I'm getting sent a cheque. But if you tell me I'm talking bollocks and you've not even bothered looking at that, then you're the retard, not me. That's simplicity of it. If I come in from the outside and say, "Hey, are you going out?" "Yeah." "Put your coat on, it's raining." "Fuck off, you're a dickhead." "I know it's not raining." You go outside, you get piss wet through because you didn't listen to the information that was given to you. I do not say everything I say is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I say, this is what I did, this is what I found out, this is what I tried, this is where I got, and this is my result. They ran away from me, they will not talk to me, they will not entertain anything about joint gyro credit checks, despite a joint gyro credit check being drawn on a third party, which is not me, and it is not the utility company. So therefore, somebody has paid my bill. Who the fuck is it? Who's paid my gas bill? I want to know that. So if we go to a county court, that's the first thing I'll do. Chief Financial Officer, who paid this gas bill for me? I'd like to know that. I'd like to thank them for paying for my gas, because obviously I'm not liable for it. You've just got to start asking questions. And it's like, Anthony started asking questions, I started asking questions, you've asked your own questions, Andy. you get to the point where you're asking questions, you're not getting any answers, so you can't provide answers for what people claim that they want as proof that you've done this. You can't prove it unless you become the claimant and you put your money up front and you take this stuff forward. And that's not going to be done in months or a year. They're going to play with you. These people took me to court. These people ran away from that court that they took me to. These people will now no longer go back to that court. Why? Because if they do, if they take it any further, they'll lose. So they're not going to do that. They're going to put the burden of proof onto me, and now I've got to provide it, or just play about and enjoy myself, not going to court, but talking about this stuff. And that's where I got to. As soon as I knew there was no warrants to be heard on my property, they can't hold me to ransom now. So there's no pay-as-you-go meters coming in. They say I should contact them. Well, I've tried to contact them beforehand. Went to court twice with it. You didn't bother turning up. So I'm not doing that. It's up to you now. It's up to you to do what you're doing. I will not chase these people anymore. And people want proof. Well, my proof is this is what I did. Those are my results. That's what I stand by. These fuckers ran away from me, and I've still not paid for my gas for 5 years. And it's not that I've not tried to settle my account. Tried to settle it because you've sent me a cheque. How the hell's... What do I do? Here's my cheque. What do you want me to do with it? Oh, you're going to ignore me. What? You know, it's the same with the banks. You can't talk to these banks because the people they put in front of you, no disrespect to them, they're willing idiots. They stand before you, they'll say all kinds of stuff, and they haven't got a clue what they're really talking about. I've been up against QCs, I've been up against barristers, and their arguments have made no sense whatsoever. And that's not me being clever, that's not me being clever at all. That's just their arguments made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, we've got a new face in the chat room, and it's by the name of Dave. And Dave seems to be going through this as well. Dave says that the bank have adjourned 4 times so far in his possession. My first notice, the judge ordered an investigation against the bank in my favour. The bank keep adjourning to avoid that investigation. I bet they do. And he also says later that EU Directive 93, the courts are encouraged not to enforce unfair contract terms. For a contract to be unfair, it need only not be negotiated by both parties, which is pretty much down what we were saying before, wasn't it?
That's exactly what we were saying, an unfair agreement. That is common denominator. Straight down to the unfair agreement. Can it be enforced? No, it can't. It cannot be enforced. So all these people that are losing their houses are being enforced wrongly. It doesn't matter what you want to apply to individual cases, that they got this wrong, they lied about this, they didn't say this right, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. The underlying issue is it's unfair. Every mortgage, Anthony said earlier, all mortgages are based on fraud. So therefore, there is no enforceable agreement on an unfair agreement. It's all unenforceable, and people have got to take that by the balls and become those claimants. Unless people start becoming claimants, myself included, you know, I've spoken to you, Andy, quite a few times, where we're building this up slowly, because the 5 or 6 years that have come and gone, where I used Carlin Hughes versus Santander, all that kind of stuff, that was like a whirlwind. It was straight in, straight out, and you think, fuck me, what happened there? Because you're actually putting case law in front of people. You're actually going to Queen's Bench and stating, hang on, these judicial decisions need to be reviewed. And it's thrown out without merit because I don't name the building. The county court building, I do not name the building as a defendant. And that's what they could throw that out on. I've never been able to cross-examine a brick in my life because I don't get the required response from a brick as I would a man or a woman. So therefore I would not name a building as a defendant. Yet these people thought that was justifiable to put up front and hide behind to not give me another hearing. This is what these bastards have been doing all this time, and it's about playing about with people's lives, and it's got to stop. It's got to come to a stop. But it takes people to grow a pair of balls and stand in front of people and say, no, you know, it's not about winning, it's about standing. It's about standing and saying no and showing that you actually know what you're talking about.
It's just like that old saying, Paul, isn't it? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Exactly.
And we're coming to the end of the 2 hours now. What I would really like to ask Anthony, and also Paul, if you've got anything to add, there's going to be people who are hearing this and thinking, this is what I need. This, you know, I need to act on this. What advice could you give to someone who is embarking on this from scratch, so to speak?
What I would say is try and go to see if there's any local self-help groups, people who are prepared to sort of, you know, bend your ear and give you a bit of information. The first thing I would say to them is go to the land registry. Go to the land registry and get a copy of all the documents to do with the mortgage. So you're looking at them and you're dealing with facts and not just what your perception of what you think might have happened. Go to the land registry and then send off a subject access request to the lender and ask them for a copy of all the documents that they hold in relation to you. And then just start going through them and get people to help and assist you to get through them. Try and team up with people who are fighting the same bank that you're fighting, because they'll have uncovered criminal behaviour or very questionable behaviour that bank's been up to. So you're trying to get as many of their Achilles heels together in one argument. I mean, there's a lot of people there. There's one guy in our group, he went to the land registry and realised that there was no charge on his house. So he effectively, he has no mortgage to pay because the banks are so greedy and they're doing so many mortgages, they forget to dot their I's and cross their T's. So that'd be my advice. Surround yourself with good people and just start getting documents and putting it together. It's your story, it's your mortgage, and no one will care about it any more than you. So if you want to give your power away and let someone else look after your mortgage, they'll do a half-assed job. Whereas you'll fight for every point and you'll be very thorough. So just don't be scared of it. It's not a big scary monster. Just surround yourself and just keep going. That'd be my advice.
Okay, thanks for that, Anthony. Have you got anything you'd like to add to that, Paul?
No, I agree. I always said that people will not take this stuff on until it comes and slaps them across the face. There's a lot of people will not even, you know, I've been judged, been criticised for, you know, well, you should have paid your mortgage, blah, blah, blah. It had nothing to do with me paying my mortgage, this stuff, where my situation, my mortgage was up to date. First day of the month, boom, my mortgage was paid. I never had any mortgage payment problems whatsoever. It came down to ownership, and when you own 50% of the house along with somebody else who owns the other 50%, then the other person can sell the 50% of the house to anybody. I haven't got a fucking leg to stand on. Could sell it to anybody, and I've just got to deal with them, how they want to share the house or just invest in it or blah blah blah. But nobody can make me sell my half either. And that was the position I took. I don't wish to sell my half of the house. And by law, and by county courts and circuit courts, they have no jurisdiction unless I agree to this this bit of commerce, because county courts, circuit courts are all about negotiations. So if I turn up there and don't want to negotiate, nobody can force me to be in negotiations. It's the same principle as walking past B&Q, the manager dragging me in to make me buy a hammer and some nails. That cannot happen. I go into B&Q and decide whether to buy a hammer and some nails or I don't. Nobody can make me buy them. And it's the same with the county court. And it's the same that applies to all these mortgages. And when you're summoned to a court, your automatic thing, what we're taught anyway, is to get a solicitor. So you bring the solicitor in, there's your signature to consent to negotiations. I've got a solicitor, I'm not a child, there's my guardian, I've signed up to this, let's just debate it, let's just sort it out. Whereas you just stand there and say, I don't wish to sell that, you do what you want with yours, and we'll leave it at that. That's how it works, that's the law. People can cry and bitch about it being fair or unfair. It doesn't matter. I own half, you own half. I don't want to sell my half. Fuck you. That's it. That's how it works. You sell your half, fine. But I'm not selling mine. And you can't force me to sell it. That's how the law works. Yet our police are being taught that little bits of paper with not even, you can't even call it a seal, a stamp from something that relates to somewhere in the vicinity of a court. Oh, it's a court. Yeah, you've got to do this. No, I don't. You don't understand the law. Yeah, I do. I understand it. No, it's bollocks. We've got idiots leading idiots, and then when you try and stand up for yourself and say, this is all like consensual, because it's commerce, it comes under commercial law, you get called free man of the land. And I've had solicitors call me free man of the land. I still don't understand what it fucking means. Not got a clue.
Thanks for that, Paul. We've got some great input in the chat room tonight. I'd like to thank Davis for some really useful stuff in there. And before we close, one thing he's mentioned in there that hasn't been mentioned tonight, and it may be useful for anyone who finds himself in a sticky spot. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Anthony, but he's talking about the official offer, and whereby you make a small, whatever payment you can afford, even if the company say it's not acceptable. And there is a way you can do that, in which you create a contract. And if you want to learn all about that, I suggest you go to the website, which is the official offer, theofficialoffermadesimple.com. Have you come across that or used it at all yourself, Anthony?
Once, twice, Anthony.
What do you say, Paul?
I said once or twice you've used it.
Yes, that was the first thing that I had done when I went to all the meetings down south. Prior, I was still paying the full mortgage. From they put up my mortgage, the £800 a month. We paid that fully every month, and we couldn't afford to feed the kids and all that sort of stuff. Had to buy crap food and stuff. But we went down over the border, and that was the first thing that people told us about. There's all different tactics and techniques against the banks. Some were too hardcore and some were too weak, but the official offer was very fair. So it's the one that sat with me. So we tried that, but within 6 months of me doing the official offer properly, the way it's supposed to be done, Santander had me in court. So there's banks that accept the official offer, and it works with them, but Santander's not one of them. They're a very aggressive bank. You give them what they want, or else they'll bring you to court. So I had no success with it, and I've never really spoke to anyone who's had a blinding success with it either. So I don't know if I would have endorsed the official offer, but certainly as a part of a negotiation ongoing, it's something that you can be seen to be trying to do. Just to remain in honour and to keep trying to pay something towards your debt. Should you be sliding £5 a month over the counter in the bank. You're still trying to pay off this debt. You remain in honour. I only stopped paying mine whenever, in 2013, when I was able to prove Santander had committed perjury and were telling lies in their affidavits. That for me was the turning point. I wasn't prepared to give them money knowing they were telling lies and committing criminal acts. So that's why I stopped paying.
So there you go, Anthony. You'd alluded to keep paying the debt that you presumed you owed them because they'd lent you the money. So you're willing to keep up your end of the bargain by keep paying that. But then as you go along, you can prove that these people are lending you that. So you are now justified to withdraw that. It all works to the same end. It's the same principle.
Yeah, I was just going to say there, it's one of the documents I had sent you there, Andy, was my listings document. It's basically a document. This is where a game turned for me. Santander told lies in the case in 2013, and so the case was turned over, and I won the house back. But during that case, they admitted that they had securitized my mortgage between two dates. So in the subject access request that I said that you mentioned a minute ago, in there I found a document called a listings document, and in there it's like a statement, but there's more information there. It's got a 3-letter code that explains what all the payments are. And in that listings document, on the exact dates that Santander securitized my mortgage, there's two mysterious payments for £192,000 coming into my account, and it zeroes my mortgage. And then the same day, the mysterious payment disappears back out again. So I have documentary evidence there that Santander have been paid the full amount of my mortgage on 2 occasions, and then took the money back out again. So my mortgage has been zeroed. They've been paid twice, excuse me, plus they've never lent me money in the first place. So how much money are these clampets looking for before they're going to throw me out in the street? Yeah, I'm not going to back down it. So
that's your insurance policy, that, Anthony. Them payments, that's your insurance.
No, I don't think so, Paul. I think there's a separate insurance policy that kicks in after 90 days, and I've got some evidence of that in the subject access request. But the 2 mysterious payments came into the account on the exact dates that Santander securitized my mortgage. So that's payment from the SPV. That's the investor paying Santander from my account. It definitely is. It's the exact same dates, you know.
Yeah, they're actually showing you what liability we reduced. So what did they sell that for? What was the payment?
The full amount of the mortgage. So my mortgage was interest only for £192,000. And the reason why I've sent it to you is the only part I've redacted out is my address. But I'm putting it on there. It's warts and all. It's the account number. It's the payments we paid from the very, very start when we took the mortgage out. So it's secrecy and lies has created the problem that humanity's in. So I'm going to be open and transparent and show people. So I'm happy for you to put that document out there to show that on those 2 dates, the 28th of September and the 30th of December, I believe, in 2011, Santander received £192,000 that zeroed my account, and they withheld that information from the court. They misled the court and didn't tell them about that. And so they committed perjury a further time.
Was that securitisation then, Anthony, or was that the insurance policy?
It was definitely securitisation, Paul.
Definitely securitisation.
Yeah. So Santander have sold my mortgage in a pool of mortgages to 1,000 mortgages. They've sold it to an investor, and they've been paid for each and every mortgage the full value of the mortgage on 2 occasions. That's what that document shows. And when I asked them to give me more documents, they said it's commercially sensitive. And if you hear that in the court, that means they're telling lies and they're trying to cover up their tracks. That's just all that is, yeah.
Commercially sensitive. If you were commercially positive in that, if you were actually participating, it shouldn't be sensitive. You should know all about that, because it should be in your contract.
It should be open and transparent.
Yeah.
So, but that's the one tactic I've had throughout this whole endeavour is that all I'm asking for is reasonable information. I'm just looking at the truth. If I borrowed money from you, can you show me that I borrowed it? And I can demonstrate that I've done everything above board and tried to be honourable the entire time. But the bank can't say the same thing.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, well, thanks so much for joining us and taking the time out to speak with us tonight, Anthony. It's been absolutely fascinating. And myself, along with, I'm sure, all the listeners, I know everyone in the chat room's been typing very supportive messages in and wishing you all the best for the future, and we'd like to do the same. We have got some really great guests lined up for the near future. Unfortunately, we haven't got many of them tied down to dates, but I do know next Tuesday Jason will be back, and we'll be joined by John Hamer, who's been on a couple of times before. And John's actually got something he wants to talk to us about, and it's about the fact that his latest book's about the hidden history of the banking industry, and it's about the inevitable decline or collapse of the banking industry, and one possible way in which we can possibly circumvent that, or maybe even bring it about a bit sooner by kind of managing our money in a way that doesn't involve the banking system. So really looking forward to that. All the usual hosts will be on in the usual slots. We've got Chuck O'Celli after a brief hiatus there. He's back on at 5 p.m. every weekday night. We've got Doc Rock, who'll be on Thursday, and I'm really looking forward to that because Doc will be joined by Rob Freeman. Then we've got the Keno's Music Show on a Friday night. We've got Mark Windows on the World at 8 p.m. every Tuesday, and then Unique Lee on Monday night at 8 o'clock with The Dark Side of the Room. And always a fascinating show from Lee. I listened last night with great interest. And what all remains for me now is to thank Anthony again, and I'd like to thank Paul for sitting in as co-host. You did a great job, mate. And I'd like to thank all of you for listening, because without you listening, we'd be just talking to ourselves. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll be back next Tuesday. Good night. Good night, Paul. Good night, Anthony.
Night, boys.
So get your religion right out of my face. You're blaming on me that you lost your pride, but I'm telling you now, you got to fight to survive. chase. Is the color of his paint somehow sacred? We can hide away so you can see, but who's gonna save us from this anarchy?